Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Benji-Sales live chat. It's so good to be back. It's so good to see everybody. How are you doing today? I think we should be up and running. Let's give it a second for the other thing to catch up, but I think we should be up and running good. Let me know, everybody. I think we're good. Sweet. What's up? How is everyone doing today? I hope you're all doing good. Crazy news in the video game industry this week. We have a lot to talk about today. First of all, I want to apologize for my appearance. I look like total and utter garbage. And that's because my allergies, seasonal allergies, decided to kick in this week. And on like a scale of 1 to 10, they are at like a 20. Right? On a scale of 1 to 10, the allergies are at a 20. So my eyes are all jacked up and red and my face is destroyed. I look like trash, okay? Let's just be honest. So sorry about that. I'm going to try and power my way through this. My allergies are so bad that it's hard for me to like even function right now. So we're going to see how it goes, okay? We're going to see how it goes. So anyone, let's break down the news topics off of the top. It's an absolutely crazy news week, to be honest, this week. Absolutely insane. We have news from everybody, most of it negative, but there are some positive things to talk about too. But it's been a pretty overall, I would say, negative week for the video game industry. It's following a trend of really bad things that's happening in general this year for the video game industry, but not everything's doom and gloom. But one of the big major topics, well, the first thing of course we need to focus on is what's going down industry-wide with enormous gigantic layoffs. We're now up to over 8,000 people being let go in just this year alone. We're only in February still. We haven't actually even hit March yet, and over 8,000 people have been let go from video game related companies. So absolutely insane. And the new ones that kicked in this week that we found out about are going to be from EA and PlayStation. First of all, in regards to EA, they are letting go of around 670 people. It represents 5% of their workforce. They announced they're going to sunset some games and a few like statements around like their shift in strategy, because it's not just layoffs. They basically also said that they're going to have shifting and changing strategies. They're overall moving away from development on licensed IP games. That doesn't mean they're not going to make any, but they are in general moving away from that. They said they're going to double down on owned IP, so franchises they own, like Battlefield and stuff like that, sports games, and massive online communities. As part of this shift in strategy, we also found out that they canceled the first-person shooter that's been in development at Respawn. It appears that was a Mandalorian game. That was a report that just came out recently from Insider Gaming. And yeah, pretty horrible news. It sounds like there was over 100 people on that game. I saw one of the devs tweet out, I think it was another Respawn dev, tweet out about it, that there was more than 100 people working on that game. So not a small amount at all, right? Pretty large amount of people that were working on that. And it wasn't even, from what it sounds like, in full production yet. So pretty big game to get canceled. They did reiterate, however, EA, that there is going to be a third Jedi Survivor game, a Cal Kestis game. So even though they canceled this one, and even though they are in general, they're saying moving away from licensed IP, that doesn't mean they're stopping everything. They are still making the third Jedi Survivor game. They said they're still making the Iron Man game, and they are still making the Black Panther game. So most of the games that were like already in development that are licensed, it sounds like are still going to release outside the Mandalorian first-person shooter. The big question is, though, however, once these games are out, is that it? Are they going to still keep making licensed games? I think that's up in the air. I think it really depends on how these games perform. But in general, EA says they're kind of moving away from licensed games. So horrible news there in terms of the cancellation and the people let go. The other massive news and layoffs came from Sony Interactive Entertainment, also known as PlayStation, essentially. They let go of 900 people. This represents 8% of PlayStation's workforce. London studios being completely closed down. Insomniac, Naughty Dog, Gorilla, Firesprite, and more were all impacted by these layoffs. So even the big giant flagship studios were not safe from these layoffs. And they also canceled a Twisted Metal live service game that was in development at Firesprite. So pretty crazy news there as well. I'm sure we're going to go into a lot more detail on all of this stuff. A few other news topics off of the top we can highlight. One literally just broke right before we went live, and that's in regards to Toys for Bob. Toys for Bob, of course, was part of Microsoft, and then they became part of Xbox and Microsoft whenever, I don't think I just said that right, did I? Sorry. Like I said, I'm in a haze of allergies right now. They were part of Activision, and then, of course, they became part of Microsoft and Xbox whenever they bought them. But it sounds like, and we don't know exactly how this worked out because there was no details given, but they are now becoming an independent studio. They're leaving Microsoft and Xbox and just becoming an independently owned studio. Now, I saw a few people asking how is this possible? Studios can't just leave. And you are correct. They can't just leave. So we have no details on how this was done, at least as of the time I went live. Maybe some stuff's come out now. I'm guessing either they worked out some sort of financial deal where they were able to buy themselves out, or maybe Microsoft just straight up didn't want the studio, which is insane to me. But maybe they just straight up didn't want them and they just let them go, which again, to me is insane. For anyone unfamiliar with Toys for Bob, they made the recent Crash Bandicoot games. They made the Skylanders remasters. They did I'm barely talking right. I'm sorry. They did the Spyro remasters, the Crash remasters, Crash 4, and the Skylanders games, and they are now an independently owned studio, apparently. They did say that they are going to try and work with Microsoft moving forward on some sort of partnership, but they did not say that that's a done deal. They said they're working on a possible partnership, so we're going to have to see how that shakes out. One other news story I'll highlight off of the top before we get to your comments and questions. Remedy Entertainment have acquired the IP rights back for the Control franchise from 505 Games. This is really awesome news for Remedy because that means that they now fully own the rights for their whole universe that they're creating, right? Because they got the Alan Wake rights back from Microsoft a few years ago. At this point now, it might have been even 5 years ago or something. I can't remember the exact date, but even though Epic published Alan Wake 2, the actual IP rights, the rights to the franchise, lie with Remedy. They got those from Microsoft, and now they also own the IP rights for the Control franchise. So this is really good news for Remedy. I saw some people asking, is this good news? Is this bad news? Does this mean 505 Games dropped them? No, not at all. This is actually nothing but good news. Remedy seems very, very happy about this. They now own fully Alan Wake and Control, the whole IP. That means publishing rights, marketing rights, all of that sort of stuff. Now, obviously, they're looking for a publisher potentially for Control 2. They didn't say for sure. They said that they're still thinking about maybe even self-publishing Control 2, but we're going to see how it goes. Possibly they're going to get a publishing deal from somebody else. My guess, my total hunch right now is that Control 2 will also be published by Epic, just like Alan Wake 2 was. But we'll see. We don't know who's going to publish Control 2, but it's not going to be 505 Games anymore. All right, that's it for stuff I'm going to highlight off of the top. Again, I apologize for my appearance. It's literally related to allergies. My face is melting off of my face right now. So I'm going to power through, guys. Okay, I'm going to power through. I'm sorry I look like hot and utter garbage. Let's get rocking and rolling. I'm not sick. It's just seasonal allergies by times 1 million. Okay. I think we had some super chats coming in off of the top. We've got Kilver with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you so much, Kilver. Hey, Benji, are you seeing Dune 2 this weekend? Best sequel in years. I'm actually going to see it tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow night I'm going to see Dune 2, so I can't wait. I'm hearing nothing but it's absolutely phenomenal. I loved the first Dune, but I know that some people found the first Dune a little boring. That seemed to be I will say somewhat common sentiment. I think a lot of people really liked Dune 1, but the one complaint I would see pop up around it from the people that didn't like it is just they found the first one a little boring. What I hear is that Dune 2 has way more action than Part 1, so that should make the people that didn't like Dune 1 happy. So I'm going to see it tomorrow. Yes, I will give you guys my review and what I thought of it tomorrow. Tomorrow I will see it. So tomorrow night in U.S. time. So I'm seeing it, Kilver. I'm glad to hear you think it's amazing. That's what I'm hearing from most people. Glitch with a 10 super chat. Thank you so much, Glitch. And very generous of you. That's a big super chat. Hi, Benji. If Hellblade 2 releases in May, it will be almost 7 months between game releases by Xbox on Game Pass. How can they expect Game Pass growth with such long periods with no game coming to the service day one? Yeah, this is a industry-wide problem. I'm not going to do my spiel already this early off the top. I mean, every question I get every week always leads into games take too long. And honestly, as tired as you guys are of hearing me talk about it, I'm tired of talking about it. So I'm just not even going to go there. But yeah, they got to make games faster. Which they can't do, so that's why they're buying so many people. Like, that's one thing people don't get. Like, part of the whole reason they went on this acquisition spree was just for sheer number of games to drive Game Pass growth. Like, that was a huge part of it. Now, of course, it wasn't the only reason, but a huge part of why Microsoft decided to just go out and start buying everyone wasn't because they thought we need to directly just have more games than PlayStation. It actually probably didn't have much to do with that, if I'm being honest. It had to do with we're now a subscription model, and look at Netflix. Look at how constantly Netflix has new shows, new movies, etc. Disney Plus, Amazon Prime. They're always pumping out original content, and like you're saying, you got to have steady cadence of releases if you want a subscription to grow. And Microsoft knew, well, if we want games to be steadily hitting this thing day one, we got to start buying tons of people. Well, so far that has not paid off, I would be honest with you. Just because they still aren't at a high cadence of game releases. Now, they're getting there. They're definitely on their way, I would say. They're on the path to getting to where they will have a more steady stream of releases. Overall, this year actually looks pretty good as long as everything does release that's scheduled to, starting with Hellblade 2. Like you said, it's a pretty big gap between releases, to be honest, from Microsoft. But if we get Hellblade 2, if we get Indiana Jones, if we get Avowed, if we get Towerborn, and all of this stuff hitting this year, it should start being a higher cadence. But yes, in general, they can't go 7+ months between releases on Game Pass. They just won't have growth, which is basically already happening right now. Their growth is extremely stagnant on Game Pass. And yeah, that's going to be part of it. If they want to increase it at all, they got to have way more games hitting way more regularly. It all goes back to the same problem I've been talking about for a long time now. And thank you so much for that super chat, Glitch. George Corona III with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much. It's another very generous super chat from someone. Thank you so much, George. Lots of talk about the need for AA/smaller titles. Sony has lots of dormant IP ripe for this. Do you see them going more this way? Is Hellblade 2 short length a sign of things to come? Well, let's do our first poll. You guys know I love doing the polls. And I'm going to ask you, would you be okay getting less giant AAA games if it meant more AA-sized games per year? So in other words, what I'm asking you guys is, like, obviously if the trade-off is the exact same number of both, right, most people are going to pick AAA. Like if I said you could get 10 AAA games a year or 10 AA games a year, most people are going to pick 10 AAA. What I'm asking is if you would be okay getting less AAA games overall, so not like a per year basis. Let's just say, over the grand scheme of time, you were getting less of those, but you would get more AA games, making up that, like more than you even had before of AAA. It's a kind of a hard question to type out because it's so long and there's a character limit. So that's why I'm explaining it here. But if there was less giant AAA games being made overall, but it meant a more total volume of games and you would get more AA sized games, would you be okay with that? We'll say yes. More total games, please. Say no, less games, but want AAA. And then we'll say Don't care either way. All right, so would you be okay getting less giant AAA games overall if it meant more AA sized games per year? I'll tell you my opinion after you guys get some votes in, because I don't want to influence the poll. Okay, and back to George Corona's question here. So here's the problem with using Hellblade 2 as an example, because, hey, I personally am totally down with shorter AA sized games. Do I love getting the big, giant, beefy 50, 60, 70-hour AAA games? Of course, I love getting those as much as everybody else. But I'll be honest with you, it's oftentimes pretty refreshing to be able to beat a game in like 15 to 20 hours. I'm fine with the industry having lots and lots and lots of games like that. You know, why do people, if you look at like TV and movies and stuff like that, they're much more digestible sized experiences than video games are. I think that's actually partially why, you know, they have so much success. You can just jump into a TV show, and yes, over a course of an entire season, it will add up to a lot of stuff. But, you know, you can sit down for 30 minutes to an hour and watch an episode of TV. Games nowadays, many AAA games take so unbelievably long to get through. I'm totally fine with lots and lots of AA sized games, but Hellblade 2 look how many years it took to develop, right? So the unfortunate part with Hellblade 2 is it's not a great example because it had a basically AAA length dev cycle for a game that's not even going to be as long as most AAA games, which is very unfortunate how that ended up happening. But in general, do I see Sony pivoting to more AA? I actually don't. And this is a bummer, but like the industry seems to be doubling down on just a few very safe bets. I know Grubb had a tweet today, and I like Jeff Grubb a lot. I watched a lot of Jeff Grubb's content and stuff, but I thought he put out a tweet thread that had a little bit lacking context. AAA development, to be clear, is in a more dire strait than some people are painting it as on Twitter. Now, one thing that Grubb was very correct about is that don't phrase what's happening right now as a video game crash. And I told you guys that either last week or the week before, something like that. Someone was asking me if we were about to go into a video game crash. And I said, no, I don't think we'll ever see a true crash again, because I just can't see people stopping playing video games, like in general, anytime soon. Like video games are a mainstream form of entertainment. So Grubb was completely correct to say, that this isn't a video game industry crash. Totally. Absolutely correct. The one thing I want to address, and there's a reason I'm going to tie this into what you're saying, George Corona. One of the examples Grubb gave was how EA was like so profitable. And he was like, look at how much money that they were posting. And he's also posted an example of look how much money, you know, was generated in the United States, you know, in February or whatever, or January maybe it was, or I can't remember. Maybe it was 2023 year. Anyways, it all is the same metric. There's some really lacking context in saying something like that. Almost all of that money that EA is making is coming from like 3 games. It's coming from like FIFA, which is, you know, EA Sports FC, Apex, and like Madden. Like that's it. Maybe there's a few other games, you know, generating some slight profit for them, but like essentially EA is making all of their money off a handful of live service games. Everything else is just kind of small amounts of money, but like the vast bulk of everything they're earning is coming from a few safe bets. That's what you're seeing the industry transition to. And I put out a tweet where I was saying, I'm the most concerned I've been about the sustainability of AAA development that I've ever been. And I completely stand behind that. Because what you're going to see the industry do, it appears, and EA literally just said this. So this is what I mean by it's more dire straits than some people are trying to paint it as on Twitter. And again, this isn't a shot at Grubb. I love Grubb. I watch his streams all the time. And I get the overall point he was making, which was saying, well, this isn't a video game industry crash. And he's right. But what you're going to see all these publishers do isn't be like, oh, you know, we're still greenlighting tons of games and tons of AAA and new IP and experiencing, and we're going to go down to AA. No, what they're actually going to do is they're going to only greenlight things that are extremely safe bets, and they're going to do an only handful of them. That is the reality that we're headed towards right now, and you can see it industry-wide. It's very obvious if you look at what the publishers are doing. Look at what Bandai Namco literally just said. They literally just said what I'm telling you, where they said, hey, we just canceled a bunch of games. I think it was like 4 of them, and they're like, we're going to be a lot more careful now about what we greenlight. We're only really going to do things that we feel real good about. I got bad news for some people. The industry, I think, is going to not look too great moving forward in many, many ways. Now, again, is this me saying the video game industry is doomed? Absolutely not. Is this me telling you there's going to be no new IP? Absolutely not. But there's a reason I sent the tweet I did. It's not a crash. There's a lot of people still making a lot of money. A lot of publishers still raking in a ton of dough. But to be clear, the reason the industry is making money right now is from like handfuls of games of live service. And Matt Piscatella tweeted out something, who is NPD/Circana. He basically sent out a tweet saying very similar things to what I'm saying, where he was like, the money's basically just being moved around and it's going into a handful of big games and everything else is getting far riskier. So if you're a publisher greenlighting games, you're going to avoid risk, right? So you're going to double down, just like EA just said, on established franchises, owned IP, not new IP. If you notice, they said owned IP, not new IP. Battlefield, the very safe bets. So bad news for you guys. Again, the industry's not doomed. There's still going to be a lot of awesome stuff coming out. But do I think what the industry will actually do, which is, I think, better for gamers, and that's putting out more AA sized games and, maybe not focusing so much on the biggest, giantest games. I actually don't think that will be the learning lesson for the industry. I think the learning lesson for the industry will be greenlight very safe projects, brands that everybody knows, don't make many new IP at all, be very careful making a new IP, and that's about it. The only exception to what I'm saying right now will be platform holders. Platform holders are in a position where they can be a lot more experimental, trying more new IPs, try more varied sized games. And I know you're saying Sony here has lots of dormant IP, so I hope we see Sony do that. From third parties, though, from the EAs, the Take-Twos, the Ubisofts, I would not expect anything from them moving forward except for very safe bets. And then the occasional experiment every once in a while. But it ain't looking good, guys. Until video game budgets come down, I mean, there's some real dangers ahead for AAA development. You can't just focus on a lot of money got made by EA. Yeah, but how did they make that money? EA didn't make all of that money because they released 15 AAA games in varying genres and, varying sizes. And nope, they made it all just on FIFA, Apex, and Madden. Like, that's how they made their money. So it's like, it's not a crash, but it ain't a good spot either. Glitch with the 5 super chat. Thank you so much, Glitch. Were you surprised that Matt Booty got a promotion, given the way Xbox first party under him has had issues with consistency in quantity and schedule? Clearly, Microsoft feels really good about Matt Booty. I said a long time ago that I wasn't sure how I felt about how Matt Booty is performing from an outsider perspective. From an outsider, I don't think it looks like... I want to be careful what I say here. I'm speaking strictly as an outsider. It's weird how much success he's had within them internally. Because, yes, I would agree that from an outsider's perspective, it doesn't seem like Microsoft first party has been handled well. However, I'm not Phil, I'm not Sarah Bond, I'm not Satya. Like, they see way more than I do what Matt Booty's doing and accomplishing every single day and what challenges he's facing and how he's overcoming them and stuff. So, Glitch, what I would say is, yes, from an outsider perspective, does it look a bit surprising how he keeps just moving up and up and up? Yes, I don't think Microsoft's first party, from an outsider perspective, it appears has been handled well for many years. However, again, I'm not seeing Matt Booty day to day and what he's doing and stuff. So clearly he must be doing something right if he just keeps getting promoted and all of this stuff. So Glitch, yes, as an outsider, I'm surprised. But on the flip side, I get it. Clearly he's doing something right. They wouldn't keep promoting him if he wasn't. You know what I mean? All right. Thank you for those super chats, everybody. Let's hit some channel members, and then we'll get to the free questions. Johnny G22, channel member. What's going on, Benji? Hope all is well. You're on a streak with these weekly live chats. It's been awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm trying to be very consistent. Like I said, I'm struggling today. I look horrible. But yeah, I didn't want to miss, man. I'm trying to be very, very consistent this year. So thank you, Johnny G. So usually on Thursdays, we've gotten very, very consistent here with it. So thank you so much, Johnny G. I love doing the chat. And then Johnny G says, I'm afraid of the quality of upcoming games going to be like with these big budgets, long development cycles, and horrible job security. I feel like devs will leave a job as soon as they get an opportunity, knowing that they don't have job security where they are at. Also, people looking into becoming a dev as a career are probably questioning if that is the right choice. I agree with everything you just said, Johnny G. I think a lot of all these mass layoffs are extremely short-sighted. So whenever I say that, like, I'm worried about the sustainability of AAA game development, I want to be clear because some people might misunderstand whenever I talk about sales-related stuff. I own zero stock in any video game company. I don't work for any video game company. I have no, like, personal investment financially in terms of how games perform. I want games to be very sustainable because A, I love games, and B, I want the devs that make the games to have job security, right? Like, I want the industry performing well because I love video games. Like, the whole reason I started following sales about video games is just because I love video games. Like, that's it. There's a lot of people that are invested in, like, the sales side of video games that don't care about video games at all. I'm not saying people that, you know, are journalists and stuff. I'm saying people that like invest in gaming companies. There's a lot of them that play like no games. They just are in it for the money. I cover game sales and the industry and stuff because I love video games. And I want this industry to be extremely profitable and extremely sustainable because that means good things for the people that work at these companies. And I think that all these mass layoffs are extremely short-sighted, man, especially to the degrees that we're seeing, where it's hundreds. Now we're up to thousands and thousands and thousands. I mean, 8,000 people, guys, this year alone, and we're in February. We are in February, and it's 8,000. They're doing it just to make investors happy. Like, that's it. That's the only reason that they're doing this is because investors look at this and think that it's good for them because, hey, you're reducing costs. But the reality is video games at the end of the day are still an art form. Yes, they are a business, but they're also art. And if you are taking away the people that create these games in mass numbers, closing studios, canceling projects left and right, I mean, that's another untold story that's kind of going around right now. I mean, guys, if you add up the total number of games canceled this year, it's insane. Okay, so it's not even just about the devs being laid off. It's also the mass amount of games being canceled across publishers. All of that's going to come home to roost at some point. You're going to have less talent because here's the reality. There's not enough open positions to fill these 8,000 plus people being let go. And that's on top of record layoffs last year. I think last year ended up over 10,000. There's literally not enough jobs to give all these people jobs. So that means people are going to exit the industry. So you're losing talent across the industry. We already are having issues getting games out in less than 5 to 6 years. Now you're canceling games all over the place, which means that in a few years, we won't feel it right now today, but in 3 to 4 to 5 years when the games are supposed to be coming out, who knows? We could start hitting some pretty big droughts because of so many games getting canceled, so many games getting reduced scope in terms of like head counts on them. It's bad, dude. Like, there's a reason I tweeted what I tweeted yesterday. So again, not all doom and gloom. I don't want this to be a doom and gloom thing. There's still going to be a lot of awesome games. Look at next year. We got Grand Theft Auto, Monster Hunter. Like, the industry is, to be clear, not doomed. But anyone that watches the business right now, there's worrying trends going on in AAA game development. Very worrying trends. To be clear, to be crystal clear, there's very worrying trends. And yeah, it's horrible. All these people losing their jobs, I think, is extremely short-sighted and not good. Glitch, channel member here. Hey, Benji, knowing what we know about the big three, who do you think has a better year compared to the other two platform holders in terms of overall numbers, revenue, growth, etc.? Number one in revenue will be PlayStation by a large margin. Probably. Even Microsoft having Activision Blizzard now, I still would say PlayStation. In total revenue, Second would be Xbox. And third would be Nintendo. And revenue. We're just talking about revenue now, right? Because obviously Activision Blizzard and all that's going to give Xbox a giant revenue boost. So that'll be for the full year, right? Instead of just being for like a 3-month thing. So for the calendar year, for revenue, I'm going to go PlayStation, Xbox, Switch. Profitability depends on what you mean in terms of, do you mean total number or by percentage? The most profitable of the big three by percentage will probably be Nintendo, because they pretty much always are. Nintendo is much smarter in how they run from a purely profitability standpoint than PlayStation and Xbox are. Notice the words I'm using there. I'm not saying Nintendo's smarter at everything they do. I'm saying if you just want to hyper focus on how to be profitable, Nintendo is much better at it than PlayStation and Xbox are. And growth, third will be Nintendo, because Switch 2 got delayed. So I still expect Nintendo to do well overall this year, but they won't have growth. They're not going to have growth this year. So Nintendo would be last place. Again, it's a bit of a tricky question in terms of like what exactly you mean. Year over year, Xbox will have enormous growth, and that's because they're going to have Activision Blizzard. So if you want to just talk about raw numbers, like just percentage growth, it's going to be Xbox in front by a lot, because they're going to have Activision Blizzard as part of them this whole year. So if we're just talking pure percentages, it's Xbox, and it ain't close in terms of that. But it's a bit of a weird thing, because what do you mean? Do you mean hardware? You know what I mean? It's a bit weird. If I'm going to just bundle everything together and say who has the best year, I'll go PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo in terms of just best year. Factoring everything together, Xbox will obviously be third in hardware sales. So it depends on how you look at everything. But if we just bundle everything together, profit, revenue, a whole big giant thing, I'll go PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo. All right, let's run a Toys for Bob poll. So the first poll I asked you guys, I said, would you be okay getting less giant AAA games overall if it meant more AA-sized games per year? 52% of you said yes, more total games, please. That was the winning vote. 34% of you said no, less games, but you want AAA, so you want to focus on AAA, even if it means less games overall. And 14% of you don't care either way. I fell into the tops position, more total games. I don't really care if a game is quadruple A, AAA, indie, whatever. To me, that doesn't really matter. But I get people that love just the big giant blockbuster AAA games. So, but I would fall with the top poll. All right, let's ask a Toys for Bob question. Nah, I'm going to actually hold off on Toys for Bob. I'm going to hold off on Toys for Bob. I'll ask you guys what you just asked me, because that's an interesting question. Who will have the best overall 2024 of the big three? PlayStation. Guys, don't just vote with allegiance here, okay? I'm asking you to look at it objectively. Okay, don't just vote for PlayStation because you love PlayStation or Nintendo because you love Nintendo. Look at it objectively. I want your honest opinion. Who's going to have the best overall 2024 of the big three? And to be clear, now that we're talking about overall, that's just not about who's going to sell the most consoles, okay? Who's going to have the best overall 2024? Or what games you like the most, right? We're talking about a business here. Who's going to have the best business year? Highlander, channel member here. Oh, wait. You're responding to someone. Can be. I think you're just responding to someone too. Kenby's just saying that they're pretty satisfied as a subscriber with the output for Game Pass because of all the third-party stuff. That's a fair point. It's a fair point, Kenby. That is a fair point. I still think Microsoft has to do better, though, about the first-party games. I think the main reason people subscribe to Game Pass is mostly for the big first-party games, I suspect. That's like the big selling point. Don't get me wrong, third-party games are still important, but I feel like the main driver is them putting their first-party games guaranteed day one on the service. They need to do better about that. But I get being satisfied as a subscriber because there has been a lot of total games on the service. Carlos Moreira, channel member. Hey, Benji. I think Call of Duty Day 1 on Game Pass could give it quite a bump in numbers. HC Call of Duty players will, hardcore Call of Duty players will, of course, just buy it because it's all they play. But for many, 1 or 3 month of Game Pass is a better proposition. Total players and stuff, yeah, Call of Duty will probably see record performance once it launches on Game Pass. I agree with that, Carlos. In terms of total players, there's a question of how much it'll cannibalize the game's overall sales because, make no mistake, Xbox and PC versions of the game will see cannibalization due to Game Pass. However, the lead platform for Call of Duty is PlayStation, so I think you'll definitely see a reduction in sales for Call of Duty overall. Like, I'm not saying this year specifically will be like way down compared to Modern Warfare 3. I'm just saying like the franchise in general. Some's going to get cannibalized on PC. Some's going to get cannibalized on Xbox. Overall, I think you do see a bit of a contraction in raw sales numbers for the Call of Duty franchise. But players and engagement, I agree. Once it joins Game Pass, it'll see probably record levels of that, to be honest with you. There's still, 30 plus million Game Pass subscribers. So not all of them are going to play Call of Duty, but like you mentioned, for sure casuals that don't usually play Call of Duty will probably engage with it now. So yeah, I agree. You'll probably see record engagement numbers out of Call of Duty. All right. Super chat coming in from Highlander. Thank you so much, Highlander, with a 2 super chat. I think Xbox will because of Candy Crush and Call of Duty. Good points. Good points. They'll be big. They'll absolutely be big. They will absolutely be big. And you're not alone. Right now, Xbox is winning the poll by a lot. I'm actually surprised by that, to be honest with you. I'm very surprised by that because I actually don't think that they will post the most revenue and stuff this year. But we'll see. I'm very open to being wrong. I still lean PlayStation, if I'm being honest with you. But, I mean, actually, this is one of those situations where I would actually love to be wrong. Just because Xbox has had such a rough run. I'd actually love if Xbox had the best year, just because it'd be nice. It'd be nice to see a shakeup. We've had so many years of PlayStation and Nintendo being such dominant forces in gaming compared to Xbox. It would be nice to see Xbox, have the best year. But we'll see. I still lean PlayStation, but I don't think voting for Xbox is necessarily wrong. All right, let's get to some free questions. Eber Romero, hi Benji. Bad days for the industry. Microsoft, Xbox 1900 layoffs, EA 670, Sony 900, and not counting the other 4,000s layoffs spread around the gaming industry this year. It's crazy. It is. It's horrible. Going to the point, Herman Hull said, I think clear, they will keep delivering the AAA single-player games, but in a different way. What does that mean, PC? Budget cut, smaller AAA games, thoughts? I think you're going to see single-player games on PC day one this generation. I've actually become a lot stronger opinion on that. I think it was even just last week or maybe the week before where I was like, I think you see it one day, but I don't know that it'll be this gen. I think it'll be this gen. I won't be surprised if Wolverine's on PC day one, for example. Won't be surprised at all. Won't be shocked at all. At all. They need these games to be more profitable. At the end of the day, Sony's profit margins are horrible. We've talked about it. As big as their revenue numbers are, their profit is just terrible by percentage. Considering how much revenue they bring in for how little profit they make off of that amount of revenue is just a really bad place. They need the games to make more money than they're making right now, and the only way to do that is to put them more places. Like, that's it. They essentially have maxed out what they can accomplish on console right now. Again, we've talked about it before, unless other emerging markets start blowing up and stuff, but console has essentially been maxed out. And one of these things I saw a lot of people asking like about Spider-Man and Insomniac and the layoffs hitting them and stuff. First of all, I don't think Insomniac should have had any layoffs. So I want to make that very, very clear. But in terms of the thought process behind why you're seeing some of this stuff, it's because their budgets are so massive, right? So one thing that a lot of people will oftentimes ignore is, hey, X and X things, generated this much revenue or sold this many units. Like, look at how massive of a success it is. That's true unless your budget's also $300+ million. Now, to be very clear, Spider-Man 2 is going to be a very profitable game overall in the end. And I don't think Insomniac should have gotten layoffs. But even off something that sells these huge amounts of units, your actual percentage of margins is shrinking actually on a lot of these games because the budget is exploding industry-wide. You saw Harada from Tekken just talking about this online where he was saying Tekken 8's budget just compared to Tekken 7 was like 2 to 3 times what Tekken 7 was, and that was just last gen, right? That was not that long ago, just last gen. He was saying Tekken 8 now is like double to close to triple the budget of Tekken 7. Budgets are absolutely exploding. And if games are selling around what they did on PS4 generation, that means you're actually earning less profit. Even if you went up by like $10, that's part of why games went up by $10 because budgets are exploding, but that won't necessarily make up the whole gap. So profit margins are shrinking despite revenue increasing. I think the only way that they're going to make these games more profitable on an individual basis is putting them more places, which means PC. I think people on PlayStation need to prepare themselves for that because I think it's coming. For single-player games, too. I don't think it's, like, imminent. I'm not telling you it's happening right now. But will I be shocked if they announce Wolverine will be day one on PC? Nope. I won't be shocked at all. Dior Amaro, hey, Benji, what's up, Dior? I haven't seen you in a little bit. Good to see you in the chat. Benji, how Helldivers got so big? I mean, nobody expected that, right? Yeah, it's one of the big shockers of the year and really one of the big shockers of recent years in general. Now it's still after 3 weeks #1 in store on PSN USA and is still after 3 weeks #1 in Steam revenue. It's crazy. I think many games after week 1 or so go to number 2, 3, 4, etc., but stays in the top 10. Helldivers is still #1. Yes. This only happened, I think, to juggernauts like Baldur's Gate 3, Elden Ring. I don't know if Power World stayed #1 by 3 weeks, but whatever. Helldivers is big, is still 300,000 regular all days. What do you think of the future of Helldivers 2? And Sony owns the IP. Do you think they will fund even more Arrowhead? Analysis of this, please. Thank you. Yes, Helldivers 2 is absolutely crushing it. One of the biggest shocks in recent memory. The only one that's really comparable to me is ironically this year again, Power World. Baldur's Gate 3 was also shocking, but it's just a bit of a different thing because it's like a single player game and stuff like that. In terms of like multiplayer shockers, right? Because let's be honest, you guys watch this chat, you guys know how down I am on games as a service and live service. You know how negative I am about that. It's important for me to also highlight things that are in that space that are annihilating. And Helldivers 2, shocking. I would have quite literally never predicted this. In fact, I was in my Discord like a week or two before this game came out being like, yeah, I don't expect much from it. It'll probably kind of just be a low-key fly under the radar thing. I didn't think it would necessarily bomb, but I didn't think it would be any sort of big giant success. And then out of nowhere, it just goes nuclear levels successful. How that happened is the only way something like that happens is through incredible word of mouth, right? People started playing it when it dropped and they loved it, and they told everyone that they knew about it they loved it, and people watched it on Twitch and thought it looked awesome, and just natural word of mouth. At the end of the day, still the #1 best thing you can have for your marketing is fantastic word of mouth. Seriously. As much as we focus on big, marketing campaigns and spending millions of dollars on commercials and all of that stuff, don't get me wrong, big marketing campaigns are important too, but nothing beats incredible word of mouth. Right? Why did Baldur's Gate 3 blow up? It wasn't because Larian spent millions and millions of dollars on trailers. It's because people adored the game. There's nothing. No amount of money can pay for amazing word of mouth. So that is what carried it. People just loved it and it blew up, right? It won't always work. Sometimes people love something and it still doesn't blow up. But for Helldivers 2, it was just that perfect storm of incredible word of mouth. It's really like fun to watch. Like if people are watching you play, look at how viral so many of the clips have gone on Twitter and stuff. People posting short. I've seen so many short tweets with like minute long or 30-second long Helldivers 2 clips that have gone crazy viral. It's just a perfect storm. Do I think Sony will work with Arrowhead more in the future? For sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'll be honest. If I was Arrowhead, I would avoid selling. I wouldn't sell to Sony. I'd be really worried if I was a company about selling to anyone right now. It's not a Sony specific thing. I don't know. This industry right now is so volatile, and these companies are so quick to lay people off. We're now seeing to appease shareholders. If I was a company right now, I wouldn't want to sell. I'd hold off. Man. But yeah, I think they'll work together. But Arrowhead, in my opinion, should not sell their company. Samuel, what's up? Great to see you, Samuel. Great friend of mine, does amazing work. He's a journalist in the game industry, does stuff for Windows Central and all sorts of stuff. Find him on Twitter. Samuel's the man. Yo, Benji, hope you are well. I'm good besides, nuclear levels of allergies melting my face off. All right, look at how dry my nose is. I've got like all sorts of flakes on my nose. Not to be gross, those aren't boogers. That's my skin peeling, literally, because I've blown it so many times that I've got literally just dry skin. I look horrible. I look so freaking bad. But besides that, besides my horrific nuclear levels of allergies, I'm good. Regarding PlayStation, what is the way forward? With multiple games canceled in the past year, what do you want/need to see from them this year? Games announced. All of these studios that they have that cost so much money to run and have, so many devs and everything like that, which I'm in favor of. Again, I don't think anyone should be getting laid off right now. I think it's extremely short-sighted. But these studios got to start announcing games. Samuel, that's really it. I need to see some big announcements from Sony first-party studios this year. That is the key thing. So many of them. We've talked about it a lot for, months now. Almost none of their studios have a game announced, right? Almost none. Media Molecule has no game officially announced. Guerrilla has no game officially announced. Santa Monica has no game officially announced. Sucker Punch has no game officially announced. I don't know if I said Santa Monica, but Santa Monica has no game officially announced. Naughty Dog has no game officially announced. Like, almost all their studios have nothing announced. So I need to, what do I most need to see from PlayStation this year? They need to announce some games. At this point, even if they're 2 years away, at this point, you just got to announce some games, right? You just got to do it. Even if it's a nebulous trailer, you just got to get some games announced. From first party, they're doing a really good job of working with second party studios. Look at Helldivers. But from their internally owned first party studios, they've just got to make announcements this year. At this point, if I was PlayStation, if a game was still 2 years away, I'd just be like, I don't care. Make me a trailer. It doesn't even need to be a bunch of in-game assets. Make me a trailer. I got to get some stuff announced. Cameron Swear. Benji, any ideas on how many Spider-Man 2 sales were through bundles? I know the leaked data showed a really high revenue share with Marvel on those sales specifically. I don't know. That's a number no one will know besides like Circana. They know the exact breakdown of bundles, and obviously Insomniac and Sony. But from an outsider perspective, Cameron, I quite literally have no idea. It would be irresponsible of me to percentage estimate on that because I literally have just no idea. I have no clue. I'm sure a decent chunk, but what a decent chunk means is who knows. But definitely some, but I don't know, man. Samir saying hi. What's up, Samir? Casual Gamer. EA's licensed Star Wars games did well. Why, despite the success of those titles, they are moving away from licensed IP instead of doubling down? I can tell you why. Is it due unsustainable while other devs/pubs follow EA's steps? It's because the licensing fees attached to it. The licensing fees we found out through the Insomniac leaks are absolutely insane for Disney. Like, you see that 300 million number floated around for Spider-Man 2's budget like crazy. And don't get me wrong, it would have been an extremely expensive game even if it wasn't, like, just the pure production cost, taking out the licensing fee. It still would have been a very expensive AAA game. But those licensing fees that Disney gets are insane. And I suspect that, we don't know what EA is paying for their Star Wars license. Like, the only one we know is Insomniac because it just straight up leaked. But we don't know what EA is paying, but I assume it's going to be something very similar. I don't see any reason why, Spider-Man and X-Men would be all of this money for Insomniac to pay for, but, EA would just get off super cheap on Star Wars. Like, that makes no sense to me. So I'm sure it's, even if it's not the exact same percentage, I'm sure it's something very similar to what Insomniac's paying. And the licensing fees to Disney are crazy, man. Crazy. Make no mistake, Disney's making bank off of what they're doing in gaming right now. Considering they're not even making the games themselves, just off licensing fees, Disney's getting paid. So I suspect what's happening is EA doesn't want to spend that much money on licensing. And they're like, hey, we own IPs. Maybe we'll sell less units, but if we're paying less, to Disney, maybe they think that the profit will actually be better. Even if they sell less units, like let's just say after Jedi 3, Respawn makes something else, right? And not a Star Wars game. Maybe EA thinks, hey, Respawn's next game might not sell as much as Jedi 3, but maybe it'll be close enough that the percentage different off that licensing fee will actually make more money despite selling less units. That's my guess. I don't know this for sure, but just looking at what Insomniac's paying for their deals, I suspect that's why. They're probably just not happy spending that much money on licensing because it's expensive. Savage Raccoon, hello Benji. Hope you're doing great and enjoying Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Mine hasn't even shipped yet, dude. Let's check. You guys know I'm still physical for most of my games. I bought the deluxe edition. Let me see if mine has shipped. Mine is not even shipped, dude. It's still back ordered. I ordered it online. And mine hasn't even shipped. I won't be playing Rebirth probably for another week. So, nope. But and then you say JRPG fans are eating good this year. JRPG fans are eating amazing. Amazing. It's been an incredible year for JRPGs. Absolutely. As doom and gloom as a lot of the industry is right now, shout out to Japan. They're having a great year. Western AAA development, though, whole different story compared to Japan right now. Not that I'm saying Japan's perfect, but I talked about this a little while back. To me, right now, Japan seems in a much better place for game development than the West. But, we'll see. Batman Forever. Why PlayStation layoffs also affected Insomniac Games and Guerrilla when their games did well in sales and reviews? Do you think we will see more game cancellations from PS studios, including Insomniac and Guerrilla? Do you think will be more PlayStation Studio game cancellations to come? I suspect the reason that those studios still saw layoffs despite games selling well is because their budgets are probably so extreme. That's my guess. I don't know. But I would assume it's because they have insane budgets for their games. So, again, keep in mind this whole conversation is a bit awkward in ways because I'm not in favor of any of these layoffs. So I'm giving you the business reasons why I think they made these decisions, but that's not me saying that I think it was the right decisions. I don't think that all these people should be getting let go from these companies. But if you're asking me like why I think Sony did it, I think it's because Insomniac's games are costing $300 million. If you look at the leaked slides, I'm not going to go too into detail because I don't want to leak the games because I still feel bad for Insomniac. I'm sure you guys have all seen it, but Insomniac was talking in their slides about games potentially costing $400 million or $500 million. I mean, the industry's doomed if you go that direction. I mean, that's insane. That just can't happen. Like, it just can't. So that would be my guess. My guess is, and again, I don't think any of these people should be let go. But if you're asking me why Sony did it, it's probably because of that. It's probably because Sony looked at the budgets of these games, and they're like, your guys' budget is like $400 million. So we're gonna let people go because that's less people we have to pay. You know what I mean? Still dumb in my opinion to do that. Especially when these CEOs are getting paid like they are, but that is probably why they did it. Yeah, it's probably strictly because of the budgets. Like I said earlier, if you're selling a ton of copies, but your margins are actually semi-slim because of how expensive the game is, management's not going to like that. Highlander with a 5 super chat. Thank you so much, Highlander. A couple super chats came in. A weird question. Think once Call of Duty goes to Game Pass, do you see more people buying blueprints and operators since Game Pass players do not buy it? Sure. Yeah, actually, maybe. You might see a reduction in total sales volume of Call of Duty, but potentially an increase in sales from microtransactions. That actually wouldn't surprise me at all. Because like you said, if someone's getting the game for free through Game Pass, right, they might be more comfortable being like, hey, I'll throw 15 or 20 bucks or whatever at some microtransactions because I didn't spend $70 on this game. So I feel more comfortable, spending some money on it if I'm getting it for free, right? That's the whole free-to-play model sell. So sure, Highlander, I would say sure. Do I think it's a lock? I don't know. But could I see a scenario where you see, despite a sales somewhat decrease from cannibalization of Game Pass, an actual in-game microtransaction increase? Yes, I could see that. I absolutely could see that. Sure. Super Donut with a 2 super chat. Thank you so much, Super Donut. When will the layoffs and cancellations stop? Not at all this year, because the industry is going to be down this year. So unless something surprises, but Sony is forecasting that PlayStation 5 is going to sell less units this year than last year. Microsoft is forecasting Xbox Series consoles will decline. We all know that Switch consoles are going to decline year over year. This year looks like much worse. And again, I'm not trying to say the video games this year suck, because there's so many good games. But does it look like 2023? No, it just doesn't. So you're also going to have a reduction in total number of big, high-quality AAA games than last year. So you have hardware across the board. Basically, everyone's forecasting and expecting to be down. You're going to have less games this year than you had last year. Again, all of these cuts and cancellations and stuff is just to make investors happy. So you're going to see more all year long. I wouldn't expect this stuff to get better until maybe 2025. And I'm not saying 2025 is a miracle and fixes things, but once you have Grand Theft Autos coming, Monster Hunters coming, Switch 2 coming into the market, once you have like all of this stuff coming and flooding in the market, it's going to look like growth. And so, investors and stuff will be more eager to spend money again. So Super Donut, don't expect this story to change at all this year. Like, this whole year is going to be really bad in terms of this sort of stuff. I suspect things will start to look better again in 2025, though. But this year, I'm expecting just about everything to be down. So that's not going to look good for investors. And so investors, again, are going to demand fixes. And so you're going to see more cancellations, more. I don't know that you'll see this level of layoffs 6 or 8 months from now. A huge part of why these layoffs are so extreme right now is because everyone's wrapping up their fiscal year. So they're doing a ton of layoffs as the year is getting ready to end, right? So I don't know that 6 months from now you're going to still see these companies laying off 900, 800, 700 people at a time. But you're still going to see layoffs, I think, throughout the year, yeah, and game cancellations until next year. Highlander with a 5 super chat. With Sony ending the acquisition of Z Media and having to pay $90 million, will it hurt SIE or SIE safe? I'll be honest, I don't even know what this Z Media thing is. Right? Shows how much I know. I'm coming on this chat talking about the industry and I don't even know what Z Media is. Something to do with like games networks out of India? Totally missed the story. I don't know anything about it. I didn't even know Z Media was a thing that existed until today. So I apologize, Highlander. Thank you for the super chat, man. I wish I had a better answer for you. I don't know anything about it. Don't know a single thing about it. So I couldn't tell you. And I'm sorry, dude. That's a crappy answer for something that you paid for a super chat for. But I literally didn't know this was the thing until right now when you asked that question. Glitch with a 5 super chat. Thank you so much, Glitch. Do you expect the layoffs to stop once Fed starts lowering interest rates? It will help, but no. A lot of people want to paint this as it's strictly just course correction from overhiring during the pandemic and Interest rates, I don't think that explains everything. It's absolutely a part of it. I think the thing people keep ignoring is just budgets of AAA games. I mean, that's the real thing in the room right now, right? So, sure, again, do I think things will start to look better at some point? Yeah, I do. Will lowering interest rates help that? Sure. And do interest and, inflation and all of this sort of thing, can all of that affect games budgets? Sure. But like, the industry has to find a way to spend less money on games. That's just the real truth. So I would think that the industry's not in a super healthy place until they get budget control. You know what I mean? And I always say this, I don't have the answer on how to do that because I'm not a game dev. So it's never me preaching to devs that they're not doing their job right. I don't know what the answer is. But as long as games are costing $250, $300 million, it's not really fixed. All right, super chats are cleared. Back to some free questions. How long have we been going? I'm going to go for about 30 more minutes. I'm shocked I've made it through this stream as well as I have, guys. You have no idea. No idea how much I've been sneezing my head off. My face all puffy. How much I've been sneezing my head off, blowing my nose. I know it's gross, but I am shocked I'm making it through the stream how I am right now. I thought I was maybe going to have to dip early. I thought I was going to be sneezing constantly while I'm on this thing and toughing it through. Fighting. Woo, fighting. All right. Where are we at? You know what? Here's a poll. Because I honestly don't know what I think about this. Do you think the industry will actually find a way to reduce video game budgets? Right? Because all this stuff we always talk about is like pie in the sky, wouldn't it be nice? Do you guys think the industry is actually going to find a way to do it? Simple yes or no. Because I have no idea what I think about this. I don't know if they're going to find a way to fix it. You know what I mean? I don't know. I hope they do. I honestly don't know. Do you honestly think the industry will actually find a way to reduce AAA video game budgets? I have no idea what I think about this. I'm hopeful. I just have no idea what I think. And the answer is not AA, guys. I'm asking AAA. Do you think they'll find a way to reduce AAA budgets? So just to be clear, it's why I wrote AAA on the tweet. Because, just replying that, sure, they'll find a way by making AA sized games. No, I didn't ask about all video game budgets. I asked AAA. Will they find a way to bring down AAA video game budgets? I'm hopeful. Busy Child. What's up, Busy Child? Hey, Benji. I main racing sims above other games. Oh, that's interesting. You don't see a lot of racing sim enthusiasts. Hearing about all these layoffs, I saw no mention of studios like Polyphony Digital and Turn 10. Do you know how these studios are doing? So Polyphony Digital is doing amazing. Dude, that's one of the untold stories right now is that Gran Turismo 7, right? Isn't that the newest one? It's behind me on the shelf back there, but isn't it 7? Right? We're on 7, correct? Gran Turismo 7 is tracking extremely well, dude. In the US, I believe it's second all-time now in dollar spend. Yeah, it is 7. I saw Matt Piscatella mention that it's like second all-time in the Gran Turismo franchise for spend in the US, only behind A-Spec, right? Gran Turismo 3. So, and obviously games are more expensive than they were in the past. So, like we've been talking about inflation, dollar per dollar, you can't say that means it's making way more money than every Gran Turismo, but Gran Turismo 3. But in general, 7 seems to be performing really well. I wouldn't be worried about Polyphony Digital at all, Busy Child. On the flip side, Turn 10, I'm worried about Turn 10, guys. So there's no evidence that the last Forza Motorsport performed very well. And I talked about this before. It's one of the most bizarre things. I can't really think of another example like this in the video game industry where a spin-off completely and utterly overtook the original. Like, the popularity gap between Forza Motorsport and Forza Horizon is enormous. To be clear, it's not that Forza Horizon is slightly more popular than Forza Motorsport. It's like multiple times, like multiplications, multiple times more powerful than Forza Motorsport, or more popular. Forza Horizon has like completely taken over the Forza franchise. So I don't know. It doesn't appear the newest Forza Motorsport performed very well. And also looking forward to the future, people just care way more about Horizon than Motorsport. So I wouldn't be worried at all about Polyphony Digital. And I don't think Turn 10 is going to close or anything like that. But I don't think Turn 10 looks like they're in a great place, no. But again, I don't think Turn 10 is going to get shut down or anything like that. But yeah, I think I've said it before. I think they need to make Motorsport a lot more interesting. And by interesting, I mean like way more brand new custom tracks, not strictly a sim racer like that's dedicated to pure realism. I know that for someone like Busy Child, where you're all about racing sims, I know that you're going to want it to be as realistic as possible, as focused on, realism and real world tracks and real world cars. And I still think they can do that. But I think the only real way to turn Forza Motorsport around is you got to have a lot more creativity with it. And I think Gran Turismo has just owned that space of sim racer, and they got to differentiate Motorsport. They can't just make it like Xbox's version of Gran Turismo, because I just think that doesn't work anymore. Especially with Horizon coming in and just sweeping up all of the racing players on Xbox. I think they got to do something to really differentiate Motorsport and make it its own thing. I don't want it to go arcadey. I'm not saying like that. I'm not saying turn Forza Motorsport into Blur, like if anyone remembers that game. I'm not saying that. But like maybe way more original, not real tracks and things like that. Venom Harness, I'm a huge Marvel fan and Star Wars fan. Do you think fans of these franchises should be worried about the future of games for those IP? Potentially, yes. Or not to panic, and we will still get many Marvel and Star Wars games. I think you should be not panicked, slightly concerned. I would say yes, because I think the licensing fee. Like, that's really the only reason. Which maybe Disney will get a little scared about EA potentially backing away from it. We don't know what's happening behind the scenes. Maybe other companies are complaining how high the licensing fees are and stuff as well. So, Venom, don't panic. Don't panic, because you said to panic, and we will, don't panic by any means. You still have a Jedi Survivor 3 on the way. It's not Survivor 3, Jedi 3. The EA outright said that. They said they're still making the Iron Man and Black Panther game, so those are still coming. You're still going to get another Spider-Man game, and you're still going to get Wolverine. Don't panic, but I also be a little worried. I think Disney might have to back up a little bit on some of the licensing. They might have to. They might have to bring their fees down a little bit on some of this stuff, because I think publishers might be getting a little scared of how much they got to pay Disney for all this. Gilly Ghost, what's up? Saying, hey, what's up, Gilly? Good to see you. Where do you see PlayStation going in the future? They'll be fine. Right? As much as this is like negative news and stuff right now, I keep saying the industry's not doomed. We're not in a video game crash. There is just some alarming trends and alarming things happening. But in the end of the day, Sony's going to be all right. PlayStation's going to be all right. Xbox is going to be all right. Nintendo. People are going to still want to play games for decades and decades and decades and decades, potentially forever, right? As long as humanity exists. I truly think games are here to stay. Will they 100 years from now look exactly how they do today? Probably not. Who knows? Maybe we're all playing them in our brains or whatever. But games in a virtual space are not going anywhere. So, listen, could some things happen? Could there be more negative things happening to some of these companies? Sure, but I'm not that worried about PlayStation. The big shift I see coming is day one on PC for everything. Yes, I do think that's inevitable. Inevitable. They got to grow. And consoles are essentially stagnating and stagnating for multiple generations. We talked about this on the chat, I think last week or the week before. You know, Christopher Dring put out the statistic. The combined install base of PlayStation and Xbox hasn't shifted for multiple generations. It's essentially been the exact same outcome every gen. And when I say combined, that doesn't mean exact. The gap is always the same. It just means if you take the total PlayStation sold, the total Xbox is sold, and add them together, it's been like almost the same number for decades. You got to find growth somewhere, right? Right? Almost decades. It's been since like the 360 PS3 gen. And I know it sounds crazy now, but it's coming up on 20 years, right? Wasn't Xbox 360 like 2007 or 2006? We're only a few years away from that, man. I think there's a super chat coming in. Let me hit that. Oh, a couple super chats. Oh, wow. 3 of them came in. Thanks, guys. Super Donut. Thoughts on Saber Interactive going independent? Good. Good. Anyone right now leaving, if you're able to exit and leave Embracer Group, do it. Get out while you can. So I would say good. Some of these, you know, I'm curious how it's going to go. I think Microsoft made a real mistake, it looks like, on how they handled Toys for Bob. I would have done the opposite of what they did, where apparently it seems like they massively reduced Toys for Bob. They did layoffs there and then let them go and just become their own thing. I would have personally gave them a new Crash game, a new Spyro game, a new Banjo game. I would have kept them very healthy internally. But, you know, Phil and them have different ideas than I do. And that's why, you know, they're getting paid a lot of money and in charge of billion-dollar businesses. And I'm a retail worker sitting in my room talking to people on YouTube. So, but if you're just asking, you know, I would have done things differently than them. But again, that's why we're in the positions we are. They know more than I do. But Saber Interactive, yeah, leaving Embracer is good. Everyone should be trying to get out of Embracer Group while they can. It seems that Embracer is just falling apart. So good. I think this is nothing but good news in regards to Saber. I don't have a ton of deep thoughts, you know, and, you know, wise, you know, mulings on it. But yes, smart. Good. Get out while you can. Benji with a 5 super chat. Hi, Benji. Is it wise for Sony to go ahead? Great to see you, Benji. Is it wise for Sony to go ahead with the PS5 Pro plans? And what impact do you see the current AAA crisis will have on next-gen plans? I think PS5 Pro coming out is still smart because I think they won't sell it at a loss. So it doesn't really matter. I've told you, I think PS5 Pro is going to be expensive. I think this thing's going to be $599. So I would say it would be a big mistake if they were going to release the PS5 Pro and sell it for a loss. Because that's just not a good idea right now. But as long as this thing is at like break even or even, you know, generating slight profit off each model sold, I don't think it has any negative impact. So it can't be sold at a loss though. If they were like, hey, we're going to launch this PS5 Pro and we're going to sell it for a $50 to $100 loss per unit sold, well, then I would actually probably just cancel the thing. Profit margins are too slim right now. But as long as they sell it for a break-even price, sure, why not? Who cares? You know, if it sells 15 to 20% of your monthly units, then hey, it's just another option for people. But that's the key. The key is they cannot sell this thing at a loss. Otherwise, yeah, I would back off of it. And the current impact for AAA crisis we'll have on next gen, my answer here is really bad. I think AI. I think AI in game development is going to be incredibly common. Now, I'm hoping that it's going to get used ethically. And I'm hoping it's not going to take people's jobs away. But if you're asking me just what I think will happen, I think these companies are going to start using AI extensively in their game development. That's what I think. I don't think devs will really have a choice. I think publishers are going to force it on them. So, because I think that's one way that they're imagining bringing costs down. So that's what I think. I think one thing you're going to see is a heavy shift to AI in a lot of ways. I don't think AI is going to build your games from the ground up. But I think that's going to be one of the pivot areas you see, and we'll see how that goes. But I think you're going to see a lot of AI used on next-gen games in various ways. Highlander with a 5 super chat. Z Media is a streaming and entertainment company in India. Sony was trying to get a foothold in India and use them to stream Sony content. Sounds like a smart idea. India is enormous. I mean, the population of India is insane. If you can make any sort of inroads on India, then, you know, India and China, right? Those are the two, like, if you can get India or China behind you, I keep talking about how, like, console market is heavily stagnant, and the only way to make something, like, really explode is, like, emerging markets have to blow up, not just for hardware, but for these gaming companies in general to see growth. Like you're saying, streaming here, sure. Anything you can do to start finding success in China and India is nothing but good news. Now, will it work out for them? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I don't know anything about Z Media. You know, so that part of the discussion here, Highlander, I don't have a good answer because I don't know anything about it. But do I think just with the information being provided, it was smart for them to try and make an inroad there? Sure. Yeah. Yeah. The populations of China and India are so enormous that you can't ignore them. So sure, I get why Sony did it. Looking at what it is, I see why Sony definitely went that way. I don't know if it'll pay off for them or not, but I get the thought process behind it. All right, where are we at? We got about 15 minutes left. Right about 15 minutes. Cheeb, I appreciate this. You sound good, but I must say you look better. Cheeb, I don't look good right now. I appreciate it, but I look terrible. I look so bad. God. Yuck. I look at myself and I'm like, bleh. But thank you. I appreciate the comment. I'm glad that maybe some of you don't think I look quite as hideous as I think I look right now. That's a relief. All right, where are we at? Marine Trash, sorry, your name's a little hard for me to read. PlayStation needs to allow studios to buy out of their contracts immediately. Interesting. Like bail? I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I do think, though, that, man, I don't like these layoffs. I think it's very short-sighted. That applies to Microsoft. That applies to Sony. That applies to EA. I don't like it. I think it's a short-sighted move. Yeah, maybe you can shave a little bit of cost for like a year or something, but what's the long-term effect of that? I think there was a great quote from Iwata from Nintendo where he was talking about that, where how, you know, part of the reason Nintendo really avoids layoffs, you rarely see Nintendo do layoffs, is he was basically saying, like, the short-term potential gain is not worth the long-term impact it could potentially have in terms of, like, development, damage to your studio's morale. I think it's really short-sighted that these companies are being this aggressive with it. It should be like a last resort, dude. An absolute last resort. Ha! Kazimo, yay! A LeSeraphim question. Hi, Benji. Hope you're doing well. Just an off-topic question. Whose photo card did you get in your LeSeraphim album? I got Chaewon. Me too, I got Chaewon. And Chaewon's my favorite member. It was pure luck. Don't get me wrong, I like all the girls on LeSeraphim. LeSeraphim is my favorite K-pop group right now. I absolutely love LeSeraphim. They're so good. Easy is just straight fire. And I like all the members. So, hey, whoever's photo card I would have got, I would have been happy with it. But Chaewon is my personal favorite member. I got Chaewon too, Kazimo. So I was very happy with that. I was like, oh, sweet. I ain't going to complain. Chaewon's my fave. She's my bias. So I got lucky. Really nice set, by the way. I got the Feathery Lotus edition. I know there's 3 of them. There's like Feathery Lotus. I don't remember the names of the other 2. Really nice. Yeah, it's really nice. Like all the stuff that came in it, the quality is, mwah. Yeah, love it. And I love the album. It's so good. So good. So good. LeSeraphim is just fire, dude. They're so good. What's up, Captain Crunch? Cheeb, what are your thoughts on PSVR 2? I know the overwhelming narrative online is it's failing, Sony doesn't care, etc. But in 12 months, they had 5 AAA bangers. all developed and or funded by Sony. Personally, I think the hardware and software are both amazing for PSVR 2, but people constantly claiming it sucks / has no games worries me that will turn people off, which would cause its eventual death. It appears the hardware sales for PSVR 2 are not good, which is a bummer because I actually haven't used PSVR 2. It's the first of the like super mainstream VR sets I haven't owned. I owned Quest 1, Quest 2, Quest 3, PSVR 1, but I haven't owned PSVR 2. And I think the problem with it, Cheeb, is really price. You know, for an add-on to a console, it's so expensive, man. Like, what is the MSRP right now? It's still got to be crazy. That's the real problem. The real problem is just how much it costs. I'm just double checking the MSRP right now. Yeah, I mean, the thing is still $550. There's just a limit on what you can do on an add-on, right? The thing about Quest is Quest 2, Quest 3, whatever, $250, $350, $400, you know. The thing is that's completely standalone. It's like its own thing. The big problem with PSVR 2 is you have to ask someone to buy a PlayStation 5 in the first place, which is, you know, $400 to $500. Then you got to ask them to buy a VR 2 on top of that, which is another, you know, $550 to $599 depending on the bundle. It's just way too expensive to get your average person in there. I get why it's so expensive. We're talking about all these profit margins with Sony. Clearly, they don't want to be losing money on PSVR 2 units sold. But if you're asking me what the biggest challenge that has been around PSVR 2, it's that price, man. It's going to be so hard to convince your average gamer that just owns, because, you know, your console players, you're going to have a lot more casual type of a person than, you know, the hardcores. There's a lot of hardcores playing console too, but if you just look at the total volume of people on console, are more of them hardcore gamers or more just semi-casual gamers? A lot more of them are going to be the semi-casual types. And convincing them to spend $550 on an add-on, that's just tough. That's just tough. NOLA Origins. Wonder if Microsoft still owns Crash and Spyro IPs, or did they give them to Toys for Bob? No way they would have given those rights away. So trust me, they still own the rights. Trust me. Trust me. No way they would let that go with Toys for Bob. Crash and Spyro are too valuable. I still think even with Toys for Bob leaving, you will see new forms of Crash or Spyro at some point. I don't know when. I don't know from who. I don't know what studio. It could be 10 years from now, but you'll get more Crash and Spyro. It'd be dumb to ignore them. Arabic Gamer, Benji, do you think gaming industry is headed into another crash due to unsustainability? I don't think we're headed to a crash, no. Do you think we will a major shift in development cycles and budgets and everything? We will see a rest. Not headed towards a crash. Like I've been saying, though, very worrying trends in the AAA industry. And we'll see how it goes. I expect a lot of very safe games coming out. That's what I expect. The number one impact I think you'll see from all of this is people being very, especially third-party publishers. First party is a little different, but from third party, I just think you're going to see them very hesitant to greenlight anything risky. It's going to be very safe bets. I think that's the biggest thing you'll see. And they've been moving that direction for a while, but I mean even more so. Caper 4, should AA games be the new AAA in order for the industry to be sustainable? I think it helps, but I think they'll be scared to do that. That's what Sean Layden wanted. You know, Sean Layden warned all of us years ago this was coming. He did. I mean, if you go back and look at Sean Layden's comments like, I don't know, 5 years ago or something like that, I mean, he was so spot on, it's almost crazy. If you look at the comments he was making specifically about AAA game development, I mean, he was just laser focused correct. And one of the things he was propositioning back then was he was saying we need more AA games. Like, that's one way we can kind of alleviate some of this. I would also like to see it, but I'm afraid the industry is not going to do that. Like, they're just going to be very careful about what they green light and only safe bets. Deadly 8, Toys for Bob going independent. What does that mean for the future of Spyro and Crash? Are they dead? Do you think Microsoft will Microsoft isn't interested in those IP and keep kid-friendly titles. No, I don't think they're dead. Like I said, I do think you'll see Spyro and Crash again, but when, where, how, I don't know. But I wouldn't call them dead. Though I would have thought they would have let go for Toys for Bob. So clearly Phil thinks very differently than me. And, you know, I don't want to just say Phil. You know, there's a lot of people there. It might not even be a Phil thing. It might be a Matt Booty thing. I don't know. I don't know who's making some of these decisions. Clearly, someone at Microsoft has real different opinions about things than I do in some ways. But again, I say it all the time. Look at how much they're paid and what they're doing, and look at me. So, who knows more? Clearly them. All right, I'm going to selectively pick just a few more. Let me, we're not done yet, but we're getting close. Let me make sure there was no super chats I missed. I'm not done yet, so don't bail yet. I'm just getting into that last, stretch, that last 10 minutes or so. Highlander with a 2 super chat. Sony walked away from it and owned them. Oh, they walked away. Oh, and I somehow, dude, how did I miss this whole story? I quite literally missed every single part of the story that Highlander's talking about. So they walked away and just paid him $90 million. Well, that's not good. It's a lot of money. It's not an absolutely insane, mind-blowing amount of money, but it's still a lot. $90 million is no joke. Your earlier question was if I think that this whole situation will impact their studios. No, I don't think so. 90 million's a lot of money, but I know this sounds crazy, but it's not that much money. I mean, Spider-Man 2 alone was $300 million. Spider-Man 2 by itself was more than 3 times what Sony paid to this company. So no, it's not good. To be clear, it's not good that Sony just had to give this company $90 million for walking away. But do I think that specific $90 million would have a huge negative impact on their studios? No, I don't think so. The thing that's going to hurt their studios more than something like that is just how much their budgets are. All right, selectively picking for like 10 minutes. Cookie Cutter back to VR2. Do you think PSVR2 new games from PS Studios will be very few and far between? Yes. And do you think PS Studios who make main console titles like VR or handheld are doomed to fail? I do think the VR market is not big enough, especially on console, to justify AAA budgets right now for games. So, yes, if I was Sony, I would not be greenlighting any AAA games from my first-party studios, but I would be willing to do some AA for VR, just to kind of make VR a thing. Though with their profit margins right now, I don't know, I might be a little scared. I would say there was a time when PlayStation was extremely profitable. I would have been really comfortable if like a Naughty Dog came up to me and they were like, we don't want this to be our main project, but we want to have like a AA sized team making a VR2 game. I'd be like, sure, go for it. It ain't going to hurt having a Naughty Dog game launching for VR2. Then I would have been a little comfortable with it. Right now, though, I don't know. But yes, I think they'll be few and far between from first party, yes. Jacob Novick, with Toys for Bob splitting from ABK, Benji, is it safe to say that they were tired of working with ABK under Bobby and that they were already in talks with Xbox, therefore Xbox closed Toys for Bob's main office? Maybe. I don't know what happened here. I just don't have any information on it. The only thing I know, I went live, so maybe more of the stuff has come out since I went live. But the only thing I know is what they stated. And all they said was just like, hey, we're spinning off and leaving. So how that happened, I don't know. I don't know. Couldn't tell you. I'm sorry. I don't have a better answer, but I just have no information on that. Drift23, sorry I'm late. Hope you answer my question. Do you think we will get Titanfall 3 from Respawn in the near future? I wish. What about Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 3? And lastly, do you think a dev will make a new Battlefront? New Battlefront? No. I will not say never, because never is a long time. Do I expect a new, like a brand new from the ground up Battlefront in the next 5 years? No. I hope, though. It'd be sweet. Do I think we'll get a Titanfall 3? Dude, you don't have any idea how much it pains me to say this, but no. EA just seems so opposed to making Titanfall for various reasons. I mean, it pains me to say that because I think Titanfall 2 is quite literally one of the best first-person shooter campaigns ever made. I would, if a Titanfall 3 was ever announced, my hype level would quite literally be a 10 out of 10. But EA just seems so opposed to it. They just seem so opposed to greenlighting Titanfall 3. So I'll predict no, but I hope I'm wrong. Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 3 I actually could see, though, because I think they could make that for like an AA-sized budget. So I actually could see Garden Warfare 3, which I know sounds crazy, that I feel like a Garden Warfare 3 is potentially possible, but not a Titanfall 3. And it's strictly down to how much the games would cost to make. That's it. I just think that they could make a Garden Warfare 3 for probably cheaper, and so they might consider it. Jose Marico, I think I pronounced that wrong. Benji, I might have missed, but who do you think won between DDP and Strickland? I had DDP 3-2. Very close fight, though. I could see that either way. To me, Jose, back whenever that fight happened, I said it was a coin flip. I would have been fine with it going to Sean Strickland. I thought DDP edged it 3-2. It's been a while since I watched it, so I can't remember the exact rounds. I think I had Sean in the 1st and 5th. And DDP 2-3-4, but don't take that, Jose, as gospel. It's been a while since I watched that fight, and I've watched so many fights in between then that my memory on the rounds is pretty hazy. But I did have it at the time as 3-2 DDP, but I haven't rewatched it. You know, sometimes when you rewatch a fight, you score it differently. But in real time, I had it 3-2 DDP. Razor close, though. Razor close. I would have been fine with Strickland getting the decision. It was so close. Julius Aaron, do you think the multimedia approach Nintendo is taking, Nintendo World Movies, etc., will help them to avoid needing to bring first-party games to other platforms? Oh, wow. Julius, that's a really great point. That's a really great point. You know, we're talking about growth for these companies. That's a great point. Nintendo's bringing in a ton of new revenue streams in recent years through areas outside of just gaming. It's all related to their gaming. Great point, Julius. I would say the answer to your question is yes. It's a great point, man. Great. I mean, wow. That's such a good point, man. I didn't even think about it, but you're 100% correct, Julius. 100% correct. And I know Sony's starting to try and do that stuff now too, right? You had the Uncharted movie, you had the Last of Us show. Like, they're moving that way too. But that's just still a great point. That's a great point, Julius. Terrence says, Starfield was great. People just nitpick it. I liked Starfield, yeah. It didn't make my top 10 for last year, but it barely missed it. It was probably like my number 11. I really liked Starfield. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I think I've said, I don't remember if I said it on here or not. Like, if I reviewed that game, I don't do reviews, but if I reviewed it and did a score, I'd do like an 8. Still a good score. There was a lot I liked a lot about Starfield, but then there was some stuff my biggest beef with Starfield is I thought that it would feel a lot different than it did. To me, it really felt like Fallout 4 in space. With its own things. But, like, it really felt like... I guess I was just expecting it to be, like, a lot different than previous Bethesda games, and it really wasn't. It was really just a Bethesda game with a different setting, which is okay. Like I said, I still liked it. So me saying that's not even being like, Starfield sucks. I still liked it a lot. But I was surprised, especially the more I played it. Like, the more I played it, I was surprised just how similar it was. It was really similar to every other Bethesda game in a lot of ways. Adam, before you leave, do you think Nintendo will ever release their games on PC? Or do you think they will make their games exclusive for a long time? Exclusive for a long time. They will be the last holdout. Nintendo will not put a game on PC, I think, until they have quite literally no other option. Could be wrong, but they are like so focused on console. To me, it will be like the day you see a Mario game on PC, to me, and again, I'm always open to being wrong, will be like when Nintendo's like quite literally smashing the emergency button. When there's just, they've tried everything else and they can't. Like if you ever see Nintendo backed against the wall where there's, it would be their like last option, I think. But I could be wrong. Yes, GOAT. Didn't PlayStation have lower outlook on the year? Yes, they're expecting hardware to be down, if you mean hardware. Jose, didn't the CEO already state that day one single player games will still be PlayStation first? Sure, but that doesn't mean in perpetuity. Plans change constantly. Just because a executive says something one day does not mean it's true 3 years later. Trust me. I mean, we have countless examples of that, not even just in the video game industry, everywhere. Just because someone says something one day, don't mean 3 years later it's the same thing at all. You guys always need to keep that in mind. Anytime a talking figure tells you something, you cannot take it as gospel forever. Not just in PlayStation's case, Xbox, Nintendo, not even gaming companies. You know, that stuff can definitely change. Sim, what's up? Almost done, almost done. But I'm having fun in the chat. I survived much better than I thought I would. I thought I was going to be dying from allergies, but I somehow made it. Yeah, let's talk. I've heard this before. Local raw honey should help with your allergies. I've heard that actually is a real thing. I've never done it. Maybe I should. Because I have heard that before, yeah. Right? That's not one of those old wives' tales, right? I think that's real. Maybe I should look into it. Because, bruh, might have been. Woo! All right, we're going. Just a couple more questions. Blazing Flame, Benji, do you think Embracer will file for bankruptcy or get dissolved? Maybe. And do you think THQ Nordic is struggling to survive? They haven't had big sellers in quite a while. Do you think THQ might get bankrupt? The answer to both of those is potentially yes. Yeah, potentially. We're not there yet, but how things are going over at Embracer, would that shock me? No. Again, we're not there yet, but I won't be shocked if that happens. Yes, if those outcomes happen, it wouldn't like floor me to see that happen. No. And then Let's Taco, does the canceling of the Mando game have to do with Disney asking too much like they did with Spider-Man? Potentially. We don't know why it was canceled. The only thing I saw was a dev tweet from Respawn that someone said that everything that was shown internally of the game looked incredible. Now, that opinion is going to be biased. Just like I say I'm a biased person with Remedy. I tell you guys that. I'm biased when it comes to Remedy Entertainment because I love Remedy. A Respawn employee telling you, hey, this game that my company was making looks amazing, it's going to be a biased opinion. That doesn't mean, though, that they're wrong. You can have a bias towards something and still be right. I'm just telling you, clearly, if you work at Respawn, you will have a bit of a bias towards your own company's output. And but that dev said that everything that they had shown internally looked incredible. So my guess is why the game was canceled. It had nothing to do with quality. So that means it was financial reasons. So maybe it wasn't strictly the licensing fee, but overall, for some reason, EA thought it wasn't going to work out financially well for them, so they canceled it. Grand Theft Auto, man. Remedy seems to be doing well. They are. They put out AAA quality games with AA-sized budgets. Whatever they're doing works amazingly well for them. They are doing well, yes. Respawn is, or not Respawn, Remedy's doing really well right now. I've been a Remedy fan. I came on board was like a hardcore Remedy fan with Alan Wake 1. Of course, I had played Max Payne and stuff back in the day, but I didn't become like a super fan of Remedy until Alan Wake 1. And I can tell you from Alan Wake 1 till now, Remedy is currently today in the best position it's been since Alan Wake 1 came out. And Alan Wake 1 was in what, 2010, I want to say? Right? 2010, I think, was the release. So that's how long. Trust me. I followed this company very closely for that period of time. Right now, since Alan Wake 1, they've never been better positioned than they are right now. And that makes me very happy because Remedy struggled for many, many years. And I'm not saying they're the richest company in the world or anything now, but they're much more stable, much more in a better financial situation now than they've been, you know, since I became a super fan back in 2010. So yay, woo! I'm so happy for you, Remedy. And Control 2 is going to be a banger. All right. I should go, but, you know, I like doing the chat. I just like it too much. I like chatting with you guys too much to leave. Do I think, here, I'll do this poll as we leave in the last 5 minutes because Blazing Flame wants to know. Let's get your guys' opinions on it. First of all, that poll I just ran as we get ready to leave. We're going to be here for 5 minutes. I'm looking at the time right now, literally 5 minutes. I asked you guys, do you think the industry will actually find a way to reduce AAA video game budgets? The winner, 52% of you said no. 47% of you said yes. Literal, basically almost 50-50 coin flip. I see why, because like I said, I have no opinion. I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea. All right, let's do this poll because Blazing Flame wants to know. Will Jedi 3... Iron Man, and Black Panther be the last licensed games from EA? So are they going to stop doing licensed games after those three? Yes. No more after that. No, they'll still make some. All right. Now we're down to 4 minutes. 4 minutes. I'll give you my answer, Blazing Flame, in a second. Terrence says we're getting Star Wars Outlaws. Yeah, but that's from Ubisoft. This is about EA. Ubisoft's making Star Wars Outlaws, not EA. Just Grand Theft Auto, man. Can't wait to play games with my Neuralink in 2060. Venom Harness, you didn't answer my other question. Do you think we will get less new Marvel and Star Wars games overall? Yes, I think we'll get less. My answer to that question is yes. Unless Disney brings down the licensing fee. Gilly Ghost, do you think Apple will buy anyone? Potentially, sure. I don't know, but potentially. I am always not ruling out Apple or Amazon just randomly deciding to start spending money in video games in a big way. I never rule that out. Companies that big with that much money to throw around, you can't rule it out. So I know Amazon's already done some in gaming. I know Apple's already done some in gaming. Like they already have Apple Arcade. So like neither of these companies have zero presence in gaming, but I'm saying in a bigger way. I never rule out Amazon or Apple. They got too much money and they're too big and they're too related to tech to just ignore. So sure, the potential is always there. Vex, Benji with Toys for Bob going independent. This is the perfect opportunity for PlayStation to license IP like Parappa the Rapper, Ratchet and Clank, and Jack and Daxter to Toys for Bob to make AA to cover the long AAA. Potentially, Vex, but it sounds like they're going to do something with Microsoft probably. So I'm guessing they're going to do something with one of those IPs, but I don't know. We'll see. One of the like Microsoft ones, but you never know. We'll see. Ba, 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 ba. Venom Harness, I love your input on the gaming industry. Thank you. That's very, very kind. Gilly Ghost, you think Arrowhead will join Sony? I don't think they should. If I was Arrowhead, I would not sell. I would not sell. Don't do it. Batman Forever. Benji, please tell me we won't see even more cancellations from PlayStation Studios. I won't tell you that, Batman. I hope I'm not saying it's like a lock, but I don't feel comfortable right now saying no one's not going to cancel anything. I wouldn't rule anything out right now. From anyone. I'm not just saying PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, EA, Ubisoft. I'm not ruling out anything from anyone right now. Like I said, I think 2024 is still going to be a rough year for the industry in terms of cancellations, layoffs. I don't think we start to see this bottom out and kind of start going back in a good direction again until 2025. Terrence, that band sounds like the name of a drug. Kind of. It's an, I don't know what the word is. What is it? Anagram? I don't know the word. It's basically the word I'm fearless, just rearranged to Le Seraphim. But it's I'm fearless. I love K-pop. K-pop and metal, right? What a weird combo. I go straight from deathcore, like Lorna Shore, Slaughter to Prevail, you know, bands like that. Then I go straight from that to like Le Seraphim, ITZY, Stray Kids. It's a very strange combination. The overlap between deathcore fans and K-pop fans has got to be very small. But for some reason, I love both of them. All right, I'm going to bounce. I'm out. Okay, we're leaving. Goodbye. The results of the poll I asked you, will Jedi 3, Iron Man, and Black Panther be the last licensed games from EA? 60% of you say yes, no more after that. 40% of you say no, they'll make some. I'm going to go with the no, they'll make some, but not many. I think they'll go down to almost none, but I could see them wanting to continue the Jedi franchise if Jedi 3 is another huge hit, because Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor both sold a ton. I could see if Jedi 3 also sells a ton, them working something out with Disney to still continue Jedi. But I think it'll be very few, very, very, very few. Maker of Chaos 12, lol, Benji reminds me of my Spotify rap. It had anime music and metalcore in my top 2. Yeah, mine for this year is definitely going to be like deathcore and K-pop, which is just random combination, but I can't help it. I love them both. All right, guys, thanks for a great stream. Sorry I looked like an utter hot mess this entire stream. I am shocked I didn't die from sneezing and being disgusting, but I didn't. So, woo, we made it. Yeah. I'll see you guys next week on the chat. As always, stay safe, play some games. Love you guys. Like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We do one of these chats every freaking single week. Follow me on Twitter if you don't already. I'm sure you all do, but do it if you don't. And we're going to go, guys. Have an amazing one. Thanks. You guys cheered me up from my mess. You guys cheered me up. So thanks, everyone. Bye. Peace. Bye. 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 Have a good one. Have a great day or night, wherever you are.